Hi, my name is Harrison Ockery, and this is my presentation discussing my lesson plan for the class Teaching Tough Topics in Biology. So I'm going to be describing the document that I'll be submitting as a PDF. And this PDF is going to have links to all of the different documents inside of my lesson plan. So you can just click on them, and those will bring you to the actual documents. A little bit of background on my school. I teach at a high school in Minnesota that has about 1,200 students, 9 through 12. And we do have the academy model. So grades 10 through 12 are split up into three different academies of about 250 to 400 students each, depending upon which academy. And I teach in the Engineering, Manufacturing, Natural Resources Academy. So my student population is about 80 to 90% males, and about half to three-fourths of these males um, are kind of fit into the category of the students who wear camouflage every single day. They drive trucks and they love to go hunting. So that's to give you kind of a little bit of a background of the students in my class, and that will help you understand why I chose some of the things that I did in this lesson plan. So here's all my information from Module 1. Can be here for Module 3 is right here. And I'm going to get mainly into the information from the planned lesson on cellular energy. So I chose cellular energy because this is a topic that we have kind of gotten away from really covering a whole lot in my biology classes. And in our group biology classes, we have about 13 to 14 biology classes going on per semester. And we do have a B block schedule, so we meet every other day for about 86 minutes. So that does kind of make it a little bit difficult to do long range lessons because I only see my kids about 5 times every 2 weeks. So you can have long range one, but there's not that continuity. That is a challenge, but the block schedule does allow for a lot to get done in a small period of time. So looking at our lesson objectives, these come from our state standards. We have not adopted NGSS, but we will be getting new standards in the next 1 to 2 years. And from what we know, they are going to be closely related to the NGSS. But the problem is in our state, you have to go down to the benchmarks. It's a part of the state law that it has to be benchmarks instead of just being standards. So what are the different kinds of molecules within cells and how do they affect how a cell functions? How does a cell maintain homeostasis within itself and as part of a multicellular organism? How do the structures inside of a cell affect the overall function of the cell? How does material get in and out of the cells and what controls these processes? So if we look down here, this is the day, this is the stage. So looking at those 5E, that's the lesson plan template that I followed. After learning a little bit more about it in this class, I decided to give it a little bit of a try. And then what's going to be happening in this class? So that's the activity. So 1 to 2 to 3 days are planned out, and then it goes on and off for about 6 class periods because of the activity that's going to be taking place here, and I'll explain that a little bit more later on. But going back to the very first part, so looking at the first stage, the engage stage, we're going to elicit some questions. Now, a big thing that we've been trying to do in our science department is whenever we're doing kind of what we call the engage stage, I suppose, we try to find an article that's new. So I'm going to be using Newsela, an article on energy, fossil fuels, climate change, or biofuels, any one of those, and we'll figure out exactly how to get that there. So, and we like to use articles that are really recent. So Newsela, if you've used it before, is great at providing articles that are at the proper reading level. Because this is for a 10th grade biology classroom. Then the very first activity is we're going to get into calorimetry. Okay, so I click on here, and that brings me to the Flynn Scientific Calorimetry in a Can. So this is going to be that document right here, and what I'll be printing off for the students, whoops, once it allows me to move, maybe not. Okay, there we go. So this will be printing off page 2, 3, and so forth. So just 2 to 3. Okay. So we'll go through the calorimetry in a can. That's going to be our explore. That's where they get to understand a little bit about calorimetry. And then this brings us to our discussion. So we're going to discuss the topics of energy and ATP with each group. So the groups are going to come together, and they're going to be answering some of those questions. And we'll start going through that. And I'm going to frame These three big questions up on the board: how does your body use energy? Does your body store energy? And what body systems use energy? And then the students are going to be breaking off into their groups. And I should mention this. I forgot to say that the way my school or my classroom is set up is I have groups in pods. So each pod is a group, and that's your group that you are working with for that either quarter or that semester. This has been awesome. I've been using this for the last year because you get some groups that really work together, and it's a mixture of them picking their group and me picking their groups. They work really well together. So they're trying to find these things. So I give them the resources. I tell them, okay, we're looking at the textbook. You need to look in chapters 8 and 9 of the textbook. I'm going to be walking around the group discussions, and I'll be talking to them. Why is ATP useful to cells? Where do organisms get energy? And then I'm also going to give them access, and we use Schoology for our learning management system. I will have these videos posted, Energy and ATP. These are both from Bozeman Science. And they can go look at them on their own. And so what the real big thing is, the students are trying to be able to answer these questions. And so this should take about one class period that they should be able to go through this. Moving on to day 2 and 3, this is where I think this is going to be kind of interesting because I'm going to be splitting my groups up. So groups can choose whether they're going to start focusing on photosynthesis or whether they're going to focus on cellular respiration. So they get to split apart. And so if they're doing photosynthesis, they're going to be going through Stomata Safari. So we're going to be looking at the structure and function of leaves by looking at this activity from, and you'd have to click on there, where they're actually looking at the stomata. So why do plants have stomata? And along with that, they do a 3D reconstruction of the plant cell. And then they do a Vernier photosynthesis lab. So again, here's that document right there. The cellular respiration individuals are going to be using the balloon and the yeast and sugar. So looking at what's going on, trying to understand those types of things. And then cellular respiration and exercise. So using bromothymol blue and running up and down to figure out, what's going on. They should understand ATP and so forth up to this point. After that, so getting into the explain. So again, this is them exploring and trying to understand, explain. They're going to be, again, breaking into their groups. And in the photosynthesis groups, they're going to be answering these questions using their resources, chapters 8 and 9, and then the notes and video. What happens in photosynthesis? What role do pigments play in photosynthesis? So they are going to make sure that they are understanding of these, and they're going to keep their group members up to date on everything. Cellular respiration. What is cellular respiration? What is the relationship between photosynthesis and cellular respiration? What happens in glycolysis in the Krebs cycle? How much ATP does, all these little things. So getting around it. And this brings us to my favorite part about this is this cellulose breakdown. This is going to be the one that takes about 6 class periods or so. So we click on this, and this brings us to a document I have on my Google Drive. And what the students are going to do is they're going to be picking their own plants that I've been growing in the greenhouse up to this point. So it's about 6 days. They're going to be picking their own plants. They're going to be using cellulase to break it down, and they're going to be creating ethanol. So they're going to decide what plants do they think are going to be producing the best biofuel. And from there, they're going to test it. We're going to see which ones actually do produce the best biofuel. And they're going to do an argumentation session. So they're going to do the ADI format where they do round robin. They're going to produce a argument. They're going to produce a paper. And then finally, the way I'm going to evaluate this whole thing is going to be the rubric for the paper. So everything's going to boil down to how well can they communicate their information in the written way. So this is from the ADI investigation books. So I'm going to go through here, and this will be how I evaluate them. Now, that's going to be my entire lesson plan. Now, as I'm wrapping things up, I'm really excited how this is going to play out in the classroom. And I think the kids are going to be really excited, especially this final part where they come back together. They can mix with another group. They get to choose which plants they use, and they get to analyze their own data. I think it's going to be a really powerful tool. So as I get to the end, here's my resources. You can find them. These most of them came from the modules that we used and to help me understand a little bit about this course and how to teach this